Now I want you to see the light that shines in you. Your DNA is golden flows inside of you. Sum is a Latin word that defines you. It means the you that's right in you. Now I want you to see the light that shines in you. Your DNA is golden flows.
Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Steve and Patryce of the group simply called Sum. Steve Belvilus is a multi-talented musician, and Patryce Williams is a gifted singer and actress. This New York-based group brings jazz and soul with their upcoming release of their self-titled debut album coming out in September 2018. The album showcases a combination of jazz, soul, and pop, introducing the driving force and philosophy of the band to accept who you are as an artist, compose with weaknesses and strengths, and to understand that you are constantly evolving. Not too bad. We talked about this and so much more, so get to know him and dig this interview, my friends.
Steve, Patryce, thank you for taking a minute for Neon Jazz. I appreciate it.
We don't want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So your debut album will be coming out in September of 2018, and before we get into that, I want to just ask you about the origins of this group. Talk to me about how you started and kind of what your aim as musicians is.
We started back in late 2015. It started I had just gathered a group of friends because I had an opportunity to have kind of a regular gig in Harlem, in New York City, at a restaurant actually. And so we were mostly playing some jazz tune, and then at the same time I knew that I had some composition that I had wrote already. I decided to bring some of them to try to perform them live, And I saw some of them were working, and I kept working on, adjusting what needed to be adjusted. Kept writing, and then and from there I decided, well, I think I'm just gonna start my band, and then call Patryce to be a part of it as a singer, and then so that's the origin of it. It was really that way it started.
Tell me where you two are from. Where were you born and raised, and how did you get involved in music?
I was born in Tacoma, Washington, but I was raised right in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And music has just always been in my blood. My father is a singer and also is a guitarist, so it was just the most natural thing to sort of happen.
As for me, I was born in the French West Indies in Guadeloupe. I lived there till I was 16. This is where I started really learning music. My father was a choir director at my local church over there, so we all play instruments. My older brother is a piano player, and my little brother is a sax player, so we were all in music, and I lived there until I was 16 years old, and I lived in Paris for 5 years, then moved to New York 13 years ago, where I did my university and went to music school at Manhattan School of Music and City College of New York, still in a music program.
Awesome. So tell me, you got a debut album coming out. Anytime you start saying the word debut album, it has to be exciting. I'm sure it's been a very long road. Talk to me about this new album, and how do you feel about it?
It is very exciting. I mean, it's definitely a long time coming, and it's I would have to say that it's a work of labor in love. Every single piece is just really a testament of what we've gone through, of what we've experienced, as not only just as artists, but just in our everyday lives. So we're really excited to share our experiences with others and hope that they feel inspired by what they hear.
In my case, yes, the album, when I look at some of the composition I wrote, some of them I wrote since 2008. So like Funky Nasty, which is it's gonna be on the album, I wrote that back in 2007, 2008. There's the Waters, which is a new version. I wrote that back in 2007, I think. It was definitely a long process. Even when I wrote those tunes, I didn't, at that time, had a mind to necessarily have a band. So some of the compositions are we can say it was made a long time ago. The process was very long as well, but like Patryce said, We have an awesome band that support us, and thanks to them, we were able to complete the whole vision of Zoom.
So from your backgrounds and your origins geographically, you've converged in New York. And I think kind of metaphorically speaking, your sounds are very diversified from jazz, soul, pop, you got funk influences. How did you all arrive at these sounds? And more specifically, what music were you listening to earlier in your life that influenced the way you were going to become musicians?
Well, I grew up in a Caribbean island, so there was always zouk zouk is a music that is, really for dancing. So there was always zouk around in the radio, but the thing, and there was the traditional music which we call buka. It has its origin from the the former slave from back in my island. But I was not really into it that much, really. But I was always more into jazz. So even when I was young, I always listened to jazz music and gospel music a lot, because I always liked the voices, the vocals in gospel music. And most precisely, I was listening a lot of Latin jazz because I was in the Caribbean, so there was a lot of Latin music. And so there was a lot of Latin jazz, and that was something I was really, really into it early on. And then a little bit later in my life, I got more deep into jazz music and classical music. When I was in Europe, in France, I studied a lot of classical music. So I started appreciating it and learning more in terms of harmony and writing, composition, stuff like that. How to point, all that I learned through that. And then later on, I got more into pop music. Early 2000, I was a lot into the whole new soul movement that was happening with D'Angelo when he came out with Brown Sugar, and I mean that was kind of late 90s, but there was that album, and then Erykah Badu early 2000 with what's the name of the album? Baduism, and Jill Scott with Who is Jill Scott. So all those albums really turned my ears into more the soul aspects of music more, and then pop music.
I definitely listened to basically a lot of R&B and also gospel. Fred Hammond was something that I consistently played all the time, as well as Chaka Khan, Rufus, that always got played in the house. My parents were really big fans of like the Whispers and the Stylistics, so all of those influences are, I think you will be able to hear, as well as Jill Scott, big, huge influence.
Cool. So what do you want the consumer that gets this album or comes to see you live to get from what you're giving them musically? How do you want them to feel?
I believe that our mission is to have people to be inspired and to be comfortable with the best versions of themselves. That you don't have to conform to what people or society says that you need to be. We're all created to be different for a purpose, and that is enough. They are enough, and them to feel good in their enoughness.
For me as a composer, I know my music can be easily categorized as jazz, which is there's an aspect of jazz in my music, but I don't want people when they come to hear us feel like they're listening to jazz music. And that's not really what it is. It's not really a conventional jazz band. It's not really a straight up jazz album anyway. Because of all of our influences, you can definitely see that in the music. And so I hope when people can come to the show that we really kind of have almost like a small music history course where they could listen to a different type of genre of music in one show, but still feel somehow that everything is connected. So it wouldn't sound like it would be eclectic, but at the same time, because of the message of the band, that you don't necessarily have to choose one thing. We all some of different influences, origin, and that's what the music is about. That's what the music we created. That's the message of the band. It's the music is diverse because we all are some of different origins and things we listen to, experiences. and that's what Zoom is about.
Let me ask you this. This is my final question. We're in a world of just absolute saturation with music and choices of listening to music and going out and seeing music and consuming either digitally or physically copies of music. So I want you to tell me this, kind of in the brevity and length of a tweet. What convince somebody that's out there why they should consume your music? What do you want to say to them?
For the simple reason that I am the composer of that music, with Patryce, that wrote some part of the music as well. So by definition, there's no other Steve, there's no other Patryce. Those songs are by definition unique. And this is what Zoom means. And it's because Zoom means enlighten I or to be. So because I am unique not because I'm better than everyone else, but just because there's no other Steve on earth. So those things that I wrote, it was only me who could have wrote them because it was only me, I believe that music gonna reach out to certain people. So that's how I can convince somebody to come and listen to us, because there's no other Zoom. Those songs and that music that they will hear live or on digital format or CD, that's not something that was heard before. And we heard that with some people who came to the show. So that's what's going to make their experience unique because of who we are, simply.
When you come to a Zoom show, it will be an experience unlike anything that you've ever felt. And that's really what it is. It's an experience more than just sitting back and listening to music.
And to add to that, I remember, it's not biased, but Patryce's father came once to the show the first time, and he's someone who knows a lot about music. He listened to a lot of music. When I asked him about what he thought about the show, he said, "Well, I can definitely say that's something I've never heard before, and that's something that sounds different, that is unique." And that's the point I'm making. I think there's a lot of things out there already, but they kind of all trending because, there's something that works in the music business, so everybody try to write the same way so that they can solve the music and catch on the wave. But I don't think as artists that is our mission. Our mission is really to whatever we have as the composer or artists that we feel in our heart that we need to write or say. That's what we should be doing. And by definition, if every artist does that, that means that every song we could hear on the radio or every artist should look at or have some music that are all different by definition. And I think that is something that is being lost a lot in the industry. I think people try to just be copycat instead of just being true to themselves as artists, So Zoom has that message in terms of us being ourselves and create the music that is made for Zoom to play.
Right on. That's a great way to wrap everything up. Steve, Patryce, thank you very much for taking some time to talk about the band and talk about this new album, and good luck with it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Steve and Patryce for their time and all of that music. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.